get ready because everything is about to change. There's a new way of living life and doing business that will blow your mind. This is a podcast all about the timing of life and the timing of success. It's what we call the Right on Time life. And you are listening to the Right on Time podcast with McCue. Hey, welcome to the Right on Time podcast. We are in for a treat today. Amy Porterfield has a new book coming out called 2 Weeks Notice. And this conversation that we are going to enter into in this episode is so heartfelt, is so aligned, whether you are getting ready to quit a day job or you're layering in and just at the beginning of thinking about quitting and layering in a side hustle, or whether you've been running your business for a while. We are going to have a conversation that crosses all of these areas because Amy Porterfield went from being in a corporate job and shifting to side hustle and shifted then to growing her own business. And she has navigated transition and change and mindset as she has grown this business, even as it reached the multi-million-dollar level. In fact, check out these stats. Amy has served more than 49,000 clients and students in her business. She has generated more than $72 million in the time that she has ran her business. Total podcast downloads, 42 million. And then more. And we'll dive into some of these numbers and we'll dive into the how of this from the beginning to the growth as we dive into this episode. I am so excited to hear what you think of it. I am so excited to be in this space with you right now. Without further ado, let's dive in and stick around to the end because I want to share a couple of tidbits with you as we wrap up. Amy Porterfield, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks so much for having me, friend. Well, we go way back. Like, it's so fun to see you. And I think about like years ago when we got to talk a lot more. So it's fun to be here.
Oh my gosh, it is such a blast. You have been up to such good stuff. So I am really excited that we're getting this opportunity because you got something big happening right now.
I do.
Tell us about it. Yeah.
Okay. So for many, many years, I've been helping entrepreneurs build businesses online, but specifically in the space of how to create a digital course to make money and scale your business. But what I found along the way is there's a lot of people still in 9-to-5 jobs that haven't really taken the leap into building their businesses. And there's a lot of fear, a lot of false security behind keeping a 9-to-5 job that we really have to examine that and overcome that. And so I wrote a book called 2 Weeks Notice, which is how to find the courage to quit your 9-to-5 job and start your own business and create something on your own terms and do it your way. And so the beginning of the book is about how to leave behind what is no longer serving you. Most people, that's a 9-to-5 job, but it could be something else. And then the bulk of the book is how to start an online business with a strong foundation. So it's everything I wish I had when I was starting out 14 years ago, and I'm really excited about it.
It's so good too.
Thank
have
you.
already read and I'm loving it. And one of the things that you are so good at is the no fluff, and you're so transparent. You're so compassionate. That's one of the things when I describe Amy Porterfield or I'm debriefing with my husband on interactions that I have, she is so compassionate and that just shines through in the book. So props to you for this incredible masterpiece.
I'm really excited.
You know, it's interesting because one of the things you talk about is that only 20% of people are passionate about their work. And layering some more into this, there's new research that Deloitte put out that 77% of people in their current jobs are burnt out. And another interesting fact is that 70% of people are looking for a side hustle right now.
Yes.
Why do you think this is?
Okay, so what I think happened was during COVID, those full 2 years that what we went through, I think a lot, especially women, our ambition has changed. So it's not that we have less ambition, but our ambitions have changed where we care just as much about our personal lives, our hobbies, the things we do outside of work, our families, our friends. COVID really shone a light on all of that. And so our focus is a little bit different than it was before, where sure, we want to have a business that we love, that's making good money, we're making an impact, but that's not everything. So when you're in a 9 to 5 job and your job expects you to make this your number one biggest priority, I think many of us are like, no, not anymore. We've had a change of heart there. And that's why I think a lot of side hustles are coming up because of that. But another reason why is as we head into a recession or are in a recession, having a plan B, having a side hustle that one day could be your full-time thing, it's a really nice security, but on your terms.
Okay, you touched on something there because you were in corporate, had a
Yep.
pretty cool job, at least it
Yes.
sounds like it was cool. And
Yes.
you went through a massive transition to start your own business. So, how did that unfold for you? And what do you recommend for those of us? And I think there are two things at play. People are in jobs looking to make a shift or layer in something, or running their own businesses
Yep.
and looking to make a change as well. So how do your experiences correlate to people who are navigating that now?
Okay, so my last corporate job, I've been in corporate ever since I left college. So my last corporate job was with Tony Robbins, and I was the director of content development. And I got to travel the world and work on the content that Tony does on stage, like Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny. You're right, it was a really good job. It paid well, great benefits, I had clout. It was really cool. But in the book 2 weeks notice, I talk about this in the very first chapter where I was called into a meeting and Tony was interviewing these internet marketers around their businesses. And I was called in humbly to take notes. And I didn't even get to sit at the main table. But when I was listening to these guys talk about their online businesses, most of them had digital courses or memberships or masterminds. And they went around and all of them talked about freedom. They talked about working when they want, where they want, how they want. They were calling the shots. They were building this thing on their own terms. And in that moment, I thought, I don't know what these guys are doing or how they're doing it. And for the record, there were no women at that table, but I thought, I need a piece of this. It was the first time in my life I thought, I want to be my own boss. I want more freedom. And so from that moment forward, I started to figure out how I could do this. It took about a good year. So that's the first thing. Anybody thinking about, if I know people are listening now that already left their 9 to 5 job, but if you haven't yet, get your exit date on a Post-it note. It's important that you determine the exit date and you put it somewhere, even if it's a year from now, that you look at it every single day and you tell yourself, this is happening. I will figure this out. So that's the first thing. Now, some people are listening that they've already left their 9 to 5 job, but they're not creating the kind of business that is bringing them joy, or they're not making enough money yet. And so a huge part of what I wrote about is how to build a solid foundation in an online business that is here to stay. And I think figuring out what you love to do, what brings you joy, what will actually keep you going. And I talk about this, that you don't have to have, it doesn't have to be your number one passion. Like my number one passion is not teaching people how to create digital courses. But one of my number one passions, or one of my big passions, is watching people find their freedom and go after what they want. So the courses are a vehicle to do that. So what's your bigger why? What do you ultimately want to do? I think it's really important to figure that out. Now, I will say when I left my job a year later, I started doing social media for small businesses. That's not what I do now, but that's how I started. And I hated having one-on-one clients. It just was not for me. Instead of having one big boss, Tony's a big guy, I had like 8 mini bosses telling me what to do. I said yes to everything. I'd get on a call with a client. We'd hang up. I'd have 20 action items to their 0 action items. I didn't know how to set boundaries. So anyone who's creating a business that they do not love, I have so been there. There's a way to turn that around for sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I've got to ask. You said it's not your number one passion now, but it correlates. There's like a line
Yes.
there to it maps out. But what would you say your passion and your heart is around?
Okay, so absolutely, it's around that woman who is in a 9 to 5 job right now, or a cubicle, or even a corner office. She could be a president or whatever of the business. And she's looking at the work she's doing and her life and thinking, there's no way that this is it. Like, this cannot be the end all be all. There's got to be something more. It's that woman who is traveling to yet another business trip saying, I miss my babies. I haven't seen my husband for weeks and I feel super disconnected to my family. This can't be it. And so I want to get in front of her or him. There's men that absolutely feel the same way. And I want to get in front of them and say, there's a totally different life out there. That's my passion, to introduce people to becoming their own boss, doing their own thing. I am passionate about people living life on their terms. And this is a vehicle to get them there.
Oh, so good. You can already hear like your heart. And this is why I said like compassion, the heart. It just oozes out of you. So one of the things that I know is the fear for so many, it was certainly a fear for me when I was moving away from corporate, is the money. Like, how am I going to make as much? How fast will it come? How do I know when I'm making enough? Because business expenses are different than, right, just getting the salary. So how do you navigate the financial transitions?
Okay, the first thing is what you had talked about earlier. I love the idea of a side hustle because with the side hustle, you can do that while you're still in your 9 to 5 job to figure out how might you make money in the first early years of your business. Because one of the things I always tell my students is the way your business looks today will look dramatically different just a few years from now when you understand what you're doing, how you're doing, and what you want to really dive deep into. So the first 1 or 2 years of your business, there's a lot of experimenting. So why not do some of that with the side hustle while you still have an income coming in? But that's why it's important to choose that exit date, because you might not ever leave because you'll get a little too comfortable with the two incomes. But that doesn't mean you're happy. So comfortable doesn't always equate to happiness. So when you have that side hustle, you have a little extra money coming in, and then you can start to figure out, okay, how could I make this my full-time thing? What I will say is that in your first few years, and I don't know if you experienced this, there was so much trial and error. I really didn't know if the money was going to come in on time or how much money to put aside for my taxes or anything like that. But when you're in the game, you figure it out. When you're on the sidelines, you just think about that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, how will I pay my taxes? What if I don't make enough money for the month? But when you're in it, you have to figure it out. That's why I want people to choose that exit date. I want you to go all in. You will absolutely figure it out when your feet are to the fire. There is magic in taking action.
I completely agree about the magic in taking action and what you said about, oh, when you start that side hustle, you might like both incomes.
Yes,
And that
it's
was
true.
absolutely true for me. I kept a corporate client way longer than I needed to. And did it
Yes.
make me happy? Not always. It was fun most of the time, but it was a big time suck. But it's true. Like, okay, that was security blanket. They did start to flip though. And I think this was an interesting point of transition where business started taking more time than day job. And then they switched places and one faded away. That took way longer than it needed to, though.
I think that's very normal. I could give you examples of things that I hung on to as well that took way longer than I should have because it was comfortable. I just did this presentation yesterday and I was talking about a security blanket because my little, or not little sister, my older sister, when she was born, she was given a baby blanket that over the years became like her security blanket. She's 3, 4 years old, carrying it everywhere. My mom would never let her take it out of the house. And so when she would go play hide and seek, it would have to stay in her bedroom. So she'd go play, she'd run back in all sweaty and hot, give it a cuddle, and then run back out with her friends. Like this thing was definitely attached to her. And till this day, she's older than me and she sleeps with it under her pillow. It's ratty, it's gross, but she still has it. And so I use this as an example of we all have security blankets that we carry with us, whether in your 9 to 5 job or your entrepreneurial journey. And usually it looks this, either 9 to 5 job that you're holding on to longer than you should, or exactly what you said, a client that you're still working with that's not the business you really want to create, but it's creating steady income. Now, listen, I'm about steady income. I love that you have that coming in, but sometimes you have to let go of something to see the doors open in another area. If your focus is here, it's not here on the bigger area that you're trying to create. And so it could be clients, which I totally was like that the first 2 years of my business doing social media for others. But here's one that came up a lot in the comments yesterday, a spouse. So a spouse making more money than you, it was a lot of women saying, my husband makes more money than me, so he pays the bills, so I don't really have to go big. And it's keeping me small. Because at the end of the day, it's not always about money. It's about what you're capable of. It's about you making an impact. And these women were saying, I didn't say this, they said it. So I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, that because my husband makes the money, I don't have to go big, which means that I'm never going to see my potential. And that was
Mm.
eye opening for me.
Wow. So those
Yeah.
security blankets, like I was thinking as I heard your sister's story, I'm like, that's adorable. Yes, love it. Come in, sweaty, give it a cuddle, run back out. As long as you run back out and you play full out. And when it's
Yes.
holding you back, like, oh, okay, we've got to reassess here.
That's a really great point. The fact that she didn't stay in a room with it all day. She went out and did her thing, but it was always there. And so you have to just ask yourself, if it's there, is it serving me or is it holding me back? And a
Yeah.
lot of the times it's, I'm going to have to let go of this in order to step into my full potential.
So you have transitioned your business a number of times
Mhm.
over the years, and some transitions were bigger than others. How do you navigate those transitions? Because as we've talked about, so many of us are in those spaces of transitions. So how do you know when, okay, it's time for me to move from social media to the next thing, or right,
Yes.
move from this to that? How do you navigate that?
I really love this question because I recently was developing some new content around how we navigate as entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I started talking about was this idea of capacity for zero. So here's the thing, there's this, you got to visualize it. There's this path of possibility. The path of possibility is you start out in the present state of where you're at, whether you're in a 9 to 5 job, you just quit, you're building the online business, whatever it is, stay at home mom, you're in the present moment. You know how to navigate it. It is safe and comfortable, or else you wouldn't be there. So that's your present. To get all the way over to possibility, what you are capable of and what you can do for this world, to get to the possibility, you have to pass through the pain. There's no way to make a pivot, to make a transition without pain coming up, whether it be fear, uncertainty, the unknown, hard conversations you need to have, lack of revenue for a while, whatever it is. To go from the present to the possibility, you have to pass through pain. I don't know anyone who's transitioned without a little or a lot of pain. The thing is, when you're in the pain, you have to have a capacity for zero, which means you have to be willing to start from scratch. Now, notice I said the word willing. I didn't say you have to start from scratch. That's like worst case scenario, but be willing to start from scratch. And the reason why this is important is you're going to say, I'm going to set my ego aside. And if I make this move, I'm going to have to start from zero in terms of revenue, or zero in terms of social media followings, or I'm going to have to start an email list from scratch. Nobody's on it yet. How much can you take in terms of your ego starting from scratch in order to get to where you want? And if you're willing to have a capacity for zero, you are going to win. There's no way you're not going to create something great because you're not too scared to actually take the risk. So I think we all need to ask ourselves, am I willing to have a larger capacity for zero, even though people might say, who does she think she is? Or look at her social media following. Like, I started TikTok not long ago. That was humbling. That was humbling because having over 300,000 people on Instagram and 10 people on TikTok, yeah, my ego took a little bruising there. But also, I want to try something new. I want to reach a new audience. So I have a very high capacity for zero.
That's amazing. Where's your TikTok now? Has it grown?
It's grown, but it's like 8,000. It's been a
Okay.
little bit rough. And you know, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up because I made a podcast episode about, I was talking to a hairstylist of mine where she's like, "You're blowing up on TikTok." I'm like, "Oh my God." She's like, "I see you all the time." And I said, "Listen, it is the slowest growth I've ever seen." But I told her, "I'm afraid I'm not right for the platform. Like, who I am is not a good fit for what people love on TikTok. I'm not naturally silly or funny when I'm talking about my content. I'm not going to do the dances like that, just the skits and stuff, not me." And so I had to come to terms with, I'm going to try something new, but I might not be the right fit for that. I'll figure it out and maybe move somewhere else where I am. So we're not going to fit in everywhere online, but if you want to try something, you've got to give it a shot.
Do you think that's gotten easier for you over time,
Mm.
that the capacity for zero and the battle with ego, for lack of a
Oh,
better saying?
absolutely. It's actually a double-edged sword though. So yes, it has gotten easier. And I want to talk a little bit about how I would have approached that like my first or second year out. And so
Uh,
I'll come back to that. But the double-edged sword is I am known in my industry. I'm known for a big email list, great social, getting people results. The reason I tell you that is so when I don't do something so great or TikTok is not necessarily taking out or taking off, in my mind, I'm like, I wonder if people are like, oh, she's not as good as she thought she was, or she should be bigger now because she's had all this success. So there is that little chatter, but I'm really quick to say, no, I'm putting my head down, running my own race like a horse runs a race, you have blinders on. I don't look left or right. I put my head down, I'm running my own race. So I'm able to jump back in the game very quickly now. If we go back to my first few years of building my online business, I did not have a capacity for zero. I was mortified by everything that happened not in my favor. So I wasn't even, I would make videos for YouTube and I wouldn't put them out. And my husband's like, what are you doing? You keep recording videos all day, but I see nothing on YouTube. And I'm like, babe, I'm so afraid of what like Tony Robbins is going to say about me. Like, who does she think she is making these videos? Like, she doesn't know all that. Or like my old coworkers, I was terrified of what they would think of me. And he's like, babe, I hate to tell you this, but they are not thinking about you. Tony Robbins has bigger things to do than wonder what you're doing on YouTube. Like, I love you, but you're thinking people are thinking about you and they're not. And that humbling advice was exactly what I needed. So, yeah, in the early days, I did not have a capacity for zero. I didn't want to do anything that would make me look silly or weak or not fantastic, but I've overcome that for sure.
Oh, so good. And you do it so well. If anyone is not following Amy, well, on TikTok yet, better get over there and see how that's going.
Yeah, come, please, everybody, come to TikTok. It's Amy.Porterfield. I need a little love over there.
I love it. Oh my gosh. The other thing that's coming up is the belief in oneself. And you talk about this in the book a bit. Like, what if I don't believe I can do it? Like, I don't
Mm.
have that belief yet. And I loved your approach to this because you said, you don't have to believe that you can do it right now. You just have to get in action. And that's a hard thing. And you're kind of hitting on this with what Hobie said as well, is how do you move that? Like, so what are other strategies you have to, like, okay, take that step forward, even if all these other things pop up in your mind?
You know, one thing that I talk about in the book is that you've got to, two things. Number one, be very selective of who you share your dreams with because not everybody's going to support you and they're not going to get it. So if you tell somebody, let's say you even tell a good friend at work that you're thinking about going out on your own, and they're going to share all of the fears of themselves with you, but they're going to mask it into like they're telling you what to do. So, oh my gosh, you need to be really careful. Do you know a recession's coming up? Do you know you could literally lose everything? All they're thinking is, if I did that, I'd be so scared if I lost everything. So, people that won't understand it or get it, they don't get to know your dreams. I say tell a few select people. I told my mom, Hobie, my husband, and my best friend Gigi, and those were the only people that really got to know of my dreams. Everybody else kind of wondered what I was doing, but I didn't share it with them. So, hold your dreams close and only share it with the people that will literally cheer you on no matter how much you fall. Very, very important. And the other thing is that when you get into motion, when you take action, you're going to start to see a little progress. So in the beginning, you have to rely on courage versus confidence. A lot of people, when they're starting out, they're looking for the confidence. I don't have the confidence to go out on my own. I don't have the confidence to go and make live videos or get on stage. None of us do in the beginning. You cannot look for confidence. You do not have it. Confidence comes from a proven track record, whether it be a small track record or a big one. Confidence comes from proof. Courage comes from a knowing inside that you want something different. Courage is faith. Courage is believing in the universe, God, whatever it might be for you, that you're not alone in this and the universe has your back. And so with that, you got to start from courage, then we'll lead into confidence. And that's going to get you going.
Courage is faith. You know,
Yeah.
This is so powerful. And even to this day, I find that's something I have to dig up. And I just uncovered a new strength assessment. So
Oh,
many people
tell
have
me.
heard of strength finders. This
Yep.
one was created with a different lens, a different look. It's called Strength Profile. And there's a
Okay.
free assessment people can take online. And then, of course, there's a paid one that goes deeper. But one of the strengths that I have learned over time, but is not natural to me, is actually courage. And it's so funny that this is coming up because all the things are coming together. I'm like, oh, I don't have that strength. So it's a little harder for me to pull it out and work it. So what I uncovered is that this courage and how you've described it, like, oh, have the faith, it can be built and developed.
Oh, oh, absolutely. I don't think you have to come out of the womb being super courageous. I think it's a muscle you can build. Absolutely. And I think one of the things that's such an interesting thing that gave you that kind of feedback that that's one area that you could strengthen. I,
Yes.
I love that. And one of the ways I think we strengthen it is we have to fuel our minds with inspiration. So every single day, I am something's in my earbuds inspiring me to keep going, whether it be another marketer, an entrepreneur, someone like Brene Brown, or Glennon Doyle, just the people that are constantly breathing life into people like that. And I listen to all of them. I also do 10 minutes of journaling every morning, even though I don't love it. I think it's good for the soul. 10 minutes of meditation. Notice I'm not saying an hour, that would never work for me. But doing some of these rituals and fueling my mind absolutely gives me more courage. So I think this is a muscle we can build.
I absolutely agree. And you've hit on some great strategies, the meditation, the journaling. How did your strategies and approach shift over the years? Did it look like that at the beginning?
Oh gosh, no. And it's also just like always is changing. I might get to a point that I'm like, you know what? I'm not into this journaling, but there's something else that really fuels me, and I'll be open to that as well. But in the beginning, it was like I woke up at 5:30, 6 a.m. and I just started working. It was like I came into building my business during a time where hustle culture wasn't even discussed. It was just what it was, right? And
Hmm.
and there was a lot of men teaching online marketing at the time, very few women. And there's this energy with some men about that the hustle thing is just their way of life. It's what they enjoy. And I don't think that works as well for a lot of women, but I didn't know any better. So when I came in, I wasn't managing my mindset. I wasn't taking care of my health. I was just working, working, working. And then, of course, I hit burnout. And I thought, this is never going to work. About 2 years in. So I had to start changing it. And that's when I started to pay more attention to my mental health, my physical body. So it's been a journey over the years for sure.
So, do you find that your results diminished, increased, like the results that you were getting in your business when you started to shift your habits? Did a shift in results come as well?
Absolutely. So, this is something you can totally relate to because I've heard you talk about it before. But in 2012, so I officially, my first year was 2010. So by 2012, that's when I made the shift. Like, I cannot hustle like this. This is going to literally tear me down. So I decided to do less to see if I could make more. So I took away some of my products that I was selling. I started doing more evergreen versus live launching. And so I wasn't actually showing up as much in my business, but I was very intentional on the things we were working on. And boom, my revenue skyrocketed. And
Mm.
that was that moment that I thought, wait, there's something here, doing less, but making more when you're intentional. I want to figure that out. So I've absolutely brought that into my current day.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think you're so spot on. Just me sitting here hearing this, having those people who inspire you or are walking a similar path, put them
Yes.
in your ears because even just
Yes.
hearing you say this now, I'm like, yes, that's right. Thank you. I needed that today.
So good.
You mentioned how you start your days. How does your usual day flow? And how much time do you find yourself working a week?
Oh, great question. Okay. So the first thing is I subscribe to Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner, like the principles behind it. Which I bet there's some similarity between you and your planner and what I do here, where I get really clear on what my priorities are for the day, and usually it's like three things that no matter what, come hell or high water, you're going to get it done. And so okay, so here's what I do. Before I end the day, I plan for the next day. So what are my meetings? What does it look like in terms of how I'm going to spend the day? And what are my priorities? So I wake up in the morning and I know what that day is going to look like. And I always start my morning, like I said, with moving my body, a little meditation, a little coffee time, whatever that might be. So I don't start working right away like I used to. And
Mhm.
then I have specific theme days. And what that means is like Tuesdays are video day. So it's Tuesday right now. We're doing video. I know I've got interviews today. I know I'll be on camera. I've got 2 lives with my own community today. So it's a big video day, which means I wash my hair, I put on a little makeup, like I'm game on ready on Tuesdays. Whereas Mondays are days that I don't have to get on camera, so I don't have to get ready. And that's a big thing for us ladies. It saves a lot of time. But I'm just focused on some meetings with my team on Mondays. Tuesday's video day. And then Wednesday, I'll do meetings as well, or content creation, or work on some kind of PDF or program. But Thursdays are no meeting days in my business. Nobody should be in a meeting on Thursdays in my business. And why that's such an important thing is that we found that meetings can zap your energy. They could take away your focus. If we're in meetings all day, who the heck is getting the work done? So we put some rules like that in my business. And the reason why we have no meetings on Thursday is because we do a 4-day work week. So what my week looks like is Monday through Thursday, 8 hours a day. And then I take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and so does my team. This is about a year we put this into practice. I was very nervous about it. I told my team, if this does not work, I do reserve the right to take it back. We're going to do a 90-day trial, because I was afraid my revenue would go down or people would be like working till midnight on Thursday night or whatever. And we've been able to make the transition successfully. Definitely some roadblocks. We've had to work through some things like, how's this going to work or that going to work? But for the majority of time, we do not work Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, only during launches.
So good. So you've consistently, what's that, 8 times 4, about a 32-hour week, or is it less,
Yes.
more? Do you flex
No,
it?
it's about 32. Like I definitely do 8-hour work days. And I will say this, they are packed. Like I'm not running to the dentist on a Thursday because there is no time. Like I don't get in my car essentially. Now I also don't have little kids anymore. So I have a luxury and I have a husband who's retired that helps me out. I have a very different life than some people and I get that. That's why I want to be compassionate for the moms who are like, must be nice. You don't have to stop at 3 o'clock and go get your kids. I'm like, I totally get that. But some other people, their dream is to stop at 3 o'clock and go get their kids. So it's all perspective. But yeah, I work and launching this book, I like to be very transparent and honest. Launching this book and doing things I've never done before, I do find myself working a little bit later on like a Tuesday night maybe, or Friday morning. I want to knock a few things out. Not my team, but me, because this is just different and it's big, and trying to launch a book while you're running a business, holy cow, no one warned me. So sometimes it doesn't always work out perfectly.
Oh, it's so worth it though. And your transparency is so appreciated. This is such an incredible read. I mean, just like sitting and talking with you, the book felt exactly like that. I
Uh,
read it very, very quickly. And having run a business, 2 businesses for over 10 years, I had so many reminders,
uh,
affirmations, nuggets as well. I'm like, okay, yes, this is right. So from the simple to the complex, there are absolutely going to be things that everybody can pull out as takeaways. Amy, I know you have a busy day, but I have one final question, and that is, what are we missing? What would you say as we think about that inspiration, that motivation? What is top of mind for you now that people just need to remember or need to hear?
ooh, I love this. I'm going to give you two things. Number one, so you and I have a friend in common, Jasmine Star, right? And one time I was talking to Jasmine many, many years ago when I was going through a very, very hard partnership breakup, which I didn't want to tell the story, but I tell the story in the book because it's like heart wrenching to me. But I was going through this partner, like business partner breakup. And long story short, I told her, I don't know what I'm going to do, but if I lose my business, I'm just going to build it back. I got to this point that I'm like, fine, I'm going to build it back. And she says to me, then my friend, you've already won. If you stay in it, you can't lose. You've already won. So I take this motto with me, and every time something's hard, but I'm still there, I say to myself, but you've already won. You've already won. You haven't stepped off the field. So anyone listening right now, if it's hard, if you're not making the kind of money you want, you're going into debt trying to figure this out, people aren't supporting you, you're stumbling, but you're still here. If you're listening to this and you're listening to us, you're still here. You have already won. So that's the first thing I want to leave you with. The second thing is that every single week, I want to challenge all of you listening to get uncomfortable. If you are comfortable and safe, you are not growing. And so every week I challenge myself, what am I going to do this week that makes me uncomfortable? I have to ask for something. I hate asking for favors, or I have to show up somewhere that I'm not comfortable with, or I've got to go to a conference and this introvert heart hates that, but I do it because I know it will help me grow. What can you do to get uncomfortable? Because the uncomfortableness will lead to growth. So let's get uncomfortable, my friends.
Oh, Amy Porterfield, you are incredible. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love you so much. I love all the work that you do. I think you're incredible. And thanks for having me on.
Back at you. Talk soon. Oh my goodness. That was so much fun. And I'm so grateful to be here in this space with you. Whether you are thinking about making a change in your current business or making a change in your current career, you're definitely going to want to grab 2 weeks notice as you step into this journey of building your business or transitioning your business into something new. It has been such a pleasure hanging out with you here today in this episode. And I want to remind you, as Amy said, you are already winning. You show up, you follow through, you stay to the ends of the episodes. And each nugget that you receive, each idea that you have is going to build upon the next and get you closer and closer to where you want to be. Stay in it. You've got this, and you are most certainly right on time.